really
आपकी किताब है और मनीष जी है तो देना ही है.
Seconds before we go for YouTube live streaming. Yes, Bhavna, you can begin now. Over to Bhavna.
Yeah. Am I audible, Manish?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Namaskar and good evening to all joining us from various parts of India for a very special session, the formal launch of Professor Badri Narayan's Republic of Hindutva, How the Sangh is Reshaping Indian Democracy, published by Penguin Viking just a couple of weeks ago. I'm Bhavna Dabhare, President of the Indian Futures. I take this opportunity to welcome you all today on behalf of the Indian Futures. I cannot but begin by hoping you, sorry, just a problem. I'm Bhavna Dabhare, President of the Indian Futures. I take this opportunity to welcome you all today on behalf of the Indian Futures. I cannot but begin by hoping you and your loved ones are safe and healthy. Let me at the outset introduce the Indian Futures very briefly. We are in a New Delhi-based independent and idea startup that started out in January 2016 with the sole aim to creating a global platform to plainly dispassionately discuss in the truest ancient Bharatiya tradition of a samvad, a dialogue, the idea of New India. We at the Indian Futures seek to go beyond the headlines of the day and have an honest, deep conversation amongst the thinking community in India and abroad. We are extremely proud to have recently hosted some of India's finest minds from the world of government, politics, academia, diplomacy, and culture. We are extremely proud to have recently hosted of some India's finest minds from the world of government, politics, academia, diplomacy, and culture. Shri Suresh Prabhu, former cabinet minister, Shri Devendra Fadnavis, former CM of Maharashtra, Shri V. Muralidharan, MOS of External Affairs, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe sir, President of ICCR, who joins us again now as chief guest, BJP General Secretaries, Shri B.L. Santosh, Shri Muralidhar Rao ji, Mrs. Saroj Pandey, Ms. Saroj Pandey, Shri Ramadhar ji, Ambassador P.S. Raghavan, Chairman of the NSAB, Ambassador Nirupama Menon Rao, and Ambassador Vijay Gokhale, recently retired Foreign Secretaries of India, Professor C. Raja Mohan, Professor Makran Paranspe, Director IIS Shimla, and our mentor in many ways, and Yamini Iyer, CPR President, are just a few I have named here. Other than top brains from different parts of the world, I would like to draw your attention to our very recently held international workshop on Quad in the Indian Pacific, wherein top strategic minds from Australia, India, Japan, and the US addressed the TIF. We are very thrilled to have with us Honorable Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe ji, President of ICCR, as the chief guest of Launch Republic of Hindutva. He is a Rajya Sabha member of Parliament and chairman of very prestigious Parliamentary Standing Committee of Education. He is known to all within and outside India as a soft-spoken, affable, and a fine intellectual, and an administrator, and also an eloquent speaker inside and outside the Parliament. Thanks, sir, for taking time out to address us all today. It's indeed a very true privilege and honor. Before I hand over to Dr. Manish to introduce other very esteemed panelists and the session, I would like to request you to follow us on all social media such as FB, Twitter, Insta, and YouTube, and feel free to share today's event with hashtag TIFRSS. We would welcome that for sure. Kindly put yourself in silent mode too to avoid any distractions in the program. Thanks again to one and all who have joined us here and on YouTube, where we are already live streaming the event. Over to you, Dr. Manish.
Thank you, Bhavna. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I again let me obviously welcome you all again who have joined us in this setting, but also scores who have joined on YouTube. Uh, Before I really start the session, let me also first also invite our very esteemed and very highly, celebrated academicians. We have with us Shri J. Nandakumar. Nandakumar ji is an All India convener of Pragna Pravaha and is really known worldwide for his very scholarly pursuits, for his intellectual depth and rigor. He is very famously the author of a very recent book, Hindutva for the Changing Times, in fact, which is a classic text of sorts for anybody who really wants to understand what Hindutva is and what it is not. Despite whatever is being portrayed or whatever propaganda we see day in and day out. So thank you, Nanda Kumarji, for really deeply appreciate that you really could take time out and join, and in fact he's joining from his village in Kerala. So it's truly an honor. Uh, I'm equally delighted to welcome Professor Shantishri Pandit, who is a professor in the Department of Politics and Public Administration, Savitribai Phule, Pune University. She is really one of India's foremost academics and an academic leader in many respects. She in fact has been I was just looking at the CV. It ran into some 23, 24 pages, so I was just difficult for me to really bring in all her very stellar achievements. But she has been parts of various academic bodies in India, abroad, and has spoken very prolifically, and she also writes a lot and has been writing contributing book chapters, serious academic publications. So it's really an honor to have with us Professor Shantishri Pandit. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us from Pune, and we are here today to discuss this very important publication which has come out recently, a book by Professor Badri Narayan, which is titled The Republic of Hindutva, How the Sangh is Reshaping Indian Democracy. It is in some ways a very extraordinary book on the RSS, and surely I think it adds to some very recent superb works on the RSS, very importantly by Sri Sunil Ambekar ji, Ratan Sharda ji, and obviously the twin volumes by Walter Anderson and Sridhar Damle. To set the ball rolling in some ways, and before I hand over to Professor Badri Narayan, but let me also, in fact, when I talk, let me first introduce Professor Badri Narayan, in fact, who is really the star of the event for today. He is a social historian and a cultural anthropologist, and is the director at the GB Pant Social Science Institute, Allahabad. His research interests obviously lie in the popular culture, social and anthropological history, Dalit and subaltern issues, and the relationship between power and culture. And I think his unique strength lies in the fact that he writes both in English and Hindi, and has authored many books on Kanshiram, on the making of Dalit public in North India, and again, all published by very reputed publications. We all see his columns appearing regularly in the Hindu, the Indian Express, EPW, amongst others. He has been a recipient of the Fulbright Senior Fellowship and also the Smuts Fellowship, University of Cambridge. Coming to his book, and before I hand over to, as I said, Professor Badri Narayan, we all need to get a handle on some basic things that many would can see that the views of RSS are actually in many ways narrative driven. And again, who is setting the narrative? So it is really by the dominant, by the so-called the opposite side, the opposite camp, the hegemonic left liberal camp, I think, which has over many years and decades now really set a narrative which seems to be absorbed without any questioning by very senior thinking minds. So I think that is what we need to understand. The other point which many very wrongly say, and which seems so natural, that why is RSS seen as something which is a static organization which is stuck in the past? that doesn't work. That doesn't. Organizations evolve, organizations change. So I think that is a very natural, constant process, which no one seems to be accepting. So that is a very important point. And again, at a fundamental level, the views on RSS, and obviously RSS plays a very important role in the public life, and especially in with the BJP coming to power since 2014, that it is really what one can see. It is really very easy and very lazy sort of research. That, for example, to explain the success of BJP, what most analysts and again very conveniently do is just say that okay, it is a cadre-based organization. Number two, communal. That is, so simplistic, and this is so. Why is that being not being questioned? And I think that is where Professor Narayan, in his book, really sets it very clear that he really cuts through this maze of very easily seen contradictions. And again, and why is that so important, and why is that so credible? It is also obviously because it is based on his very strong social science research methodology, based on field studies. His extensive travels in the hinterlands of UP and Bihar, I think, really are amazing, and really, in fact, give us first-hand accounts of his conversations with people. And again, the most important part, when COVID struck. How are different communities, especially backward communities, looking at the whole issue? I think at Sang. This is a fantastic book which all should be reading to understand. And again, let me also, remind you all that it is already a very, a media blockbuster in many ways. Professor Badri Narayan has been speaking to many media outlets in recent times, and it is already in the top 10 non-fiction list, and it has an endorsement already by Shekhar Gupta and even Professor Rajiv Bhargava. So with this, I'll stop and maybe request Professor Badri Narayan to speak on his book, what exactly his book is all about, what are the key arguments he's making, what are his key findings, in about 10 to 12 minutes, if that's fine with you, Professor Narayan. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Manishi. Thank you, India Future, Manishi, Bhavna, for organizing this discussion on the book. And I'm really very honored to see Srivine Sahasrabuddhe here as the chief guest of this program. And he's really a finest mind of this country, and always learned a lot from him. So he's here. And Jainand Kumarji, who always inspire us by his public action, he's here. Shanti Shriji, eminent academician, political scientist, here she's here, and this is very nice panel to discuss on this book. So it's very difficult for author to tell about it, because author becomes examinee in that sense, as an student, because he always waits for the result, what kind of result comes. So it's not easy to tell about the own book, but I'll try to simplify it. I can talk at various forums in various ways on this book, but here I will try to simplify it. What I have tried to say in this book. This very simply, one of the simple arguments which I'm doing, it's very common sense argument, that any organization who has been formed since 100 years ago can change. And why people are not accepting this argument? Because they don't want to see this changing pattern of any organization. Because change, this organization is not working in isolation. It's working in the society. This is working for society. It's working in a democratic sphere. So this organization, and it working in the modern world. So this organization can also change. And this is very difficult for the section of people, readers, to accept it, because they are saying no, it can't change. RSS can't change. RSS is like the way it was in 1925. So archetypical understanding about the RSS. So what we observe in the political discourse. See, I am an outsider. I am working as a academician. I am trying to see the RSS from my own angle, and that angle emerged from the grassroots, my fieldwork among the communities. There are two processes through which one political action, public action, can create mobilization. One is agency and the relationship between agency and community. Sangh Pracharak who works at the grassroots level, how it is received by the public community. So I try to see Sangh from that angle, from there only, from community angle, to see how what they are doing and how it's going to impact of the community. There are other ways to see the RSS from the institutional ideology, literature, archive. I have not gone to see all these things. I have worked to see their contemporary configurations. And so first argument which I'm trying to give it, that is changing. It's changing to accommodate for what? Changing for what? Changing to accommodate, to adapt, to appropriate the opposite conditions. So opposite, the community who are portrayed as an opposite. So Sangh through its resilience and through its inherent strength, always try to go to a difficult zone. And these difficult zones are portrayed by a section of interpreters as an opposite of the RSS. No, like Dalit and marginals in mainstream Ambedkarite classical interpretations, they were shown as anti-RSS, the community anti-Hindutva. But RSS always try to work with them. And this phenomena started after 90s. No? They have started working since long. I'm not going to say that before 90 they were not working. But after 90 at the grassroots, you can see the impact of the things which they were doing. So first thing, the entire adaptability with the modernity, with the modern outlook, the responding modern complex situation of the society. RSS is always responding, like this case of the community, the transgender issue of transgender, and many things. So first argument is this. Second argument is that we always see RSS through the certain stereotype, and a stereotype which emerges within us by the activist literature, activist leaflet kind of literature. It does not come from a serious understanding of the RSS, and we
So please unmute yourself.
Sorry. So stereotypes like that, feminical, communal, this and that, anti-Dalit, this and that. But when you go and see they are working at the grassroots, you can find a different story. And that's why I say that we need to refix our lenses to see the RSS. Ours, if I'm saying our, there are many our. I'm telling those who see the RSS from the outside. Those who have experience with the RSS, they have another narrative, another story. But I am talking about those who see the RSS from the outside. They should refix their lenses to see the RSS, and then they can understand the ranges of their actions, and then they can understand the impact of their actions. So second thing is this. Third thing is RSS has a capacity to always redefine itself, and that redefinition is oriented to include others. So I see that they go to the opposite, they go to the difficult trajectory, they go to the Atra Kona, which we call in Hindi, in very difficult zone to Northeast, tribals, Dalits, and which demands a lot of dedication and commitment to work with them. And they work with them. And they work, this book is mostly centered on what they do among Dalit community and how they have expanded the Hindutva consciousness, or expanded, maybe not right term. They reframe Hindutva consciousness among Dalit and marginals, and a bigger section of Dalit marginals in the society, like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. And what are their ways of acting with them, action with them, working with them. So this book documents their ways of working with the community. And the two things which is very important, every marginals wants dignity and development. Dignity, in 90s, there were two movements started in place. One is Bahujan movement and second is Hindutva movement. And both movements, one is decline and other is growth. Why? And both started from both are responding to this urge of dignity of the marginal community. So I tried to give answer that why Hindutva movement is growing among a bigger section of Dalit and marginals, and why Bahujan movement is declined among them. So to address dignity, all cultural resources, historical resources, defining identity, they are doing a very creative mobilizational process to redefine the identity of the marginal community in their own way, and reshaping it, and through that they create a connect with the community. And in that way, they are influencing the remaking of the process of remaking of the Indian democracy, because Indian democracy is about the empowering the voiceless of the empowering the voiceless, which have not voice. So they are trying to evolve a voice while working with them through their Siva projects, through various kinds of support to the community, enhance their capacity to aspire for a good life, redefining the meaning of development through their work. I tell you one very interesting example, and then I'll go for another one or two points, and then I'll finish. I was working in Bundelkhand. We were working in the Bundelkhand among very small marginal communities, and what we observed, most of them came from the forest areas and made their basti around the highways, and they all came with their DTs, and people migrated, and DT also migrated. They brought DT with them and put the DT near people tree with various kinds of countries and all. And they all have aspirations, most of the smaller community, that they need a temple of that DT. So temple for them is not only a religious space, it's also a social space, it's also a public space where they can get visibility through these temples. They can sit together, they can discuss the marriage of their son and daughters, they organize programs there. So it's a public place for them. So some in those areas, local branches of organizations give they support chanda collections and whatever to fulfill their this kind of aspirations. Whenever we talk about the socio-economic empowerment, we always talk about socio-economic empowerment. We don't talk about religious empowerment or religious equality. No, this is the sense of religious equality. They also want they worship the mega gods of our culture, but they also want a temple for a smaller deities. Smaller deities for us, for them, it's their icon, their community deities like Agariya Devi, Agara Devi. There is a village near Banaras that is called Jayapura, which Modi has adopted. There they have made a smaller temple of Shiva and the Sabri. And the Sabri is a deity highly worshipped among Musar community. And Musahar used to say that इधर 50 कोस में ऐसा मंदिर नहीं था. पहली बार हमारे community को मंदिर मिला है. We got temple first time in our entire community history. In 50 course, there is no temple of the sun. And this thing our secular politics don't understand, because they don't understand or secular discourse don't understand. This is religious. They use quote marks, for proving it a religious requirement. But Marx also told that this is the cry of the oppressed. Religion is the cry of the oppressed. So that way, sung at the grassroots level, not as an organized politics. I can't say that it's happening from the instruction of the Nagpur or from the Jhandewalas or whatever. They are local needs of the people, and they are supporting them as a social partner of it. And that's maybe that those may be spontaneous, those may be organized, that those may be, I'm not going to follow those why these are happening, but these are happening, and these happenings have a social impact, and that impact provide them visibility to the community. And that is the in Uttar Pradesh we have more than 65 Dalit communities, and only 4 or 5 people communities are visible. Most of them are invisible. Even don't know about them. So they don't have a leader, they don't have a educated class, they don't have a middle class. And Sangh is working with those communities, and through that they are expanding this entire the notion of Hindutva consciousness in the community, and organizing them in different ways, in their own ways. In this book, I also address about the politics, how Sangh cadres. I'm not saying Sangh as an organized organization take part in the politics, but I'm saying a section of Sangh cadres also intervene in the local politics, and how they plays very important role in the success of the politics of the political organization, those who are doing politics in the broader frame of Hindutva. So I'm not taking the name because people will say this or that, right? But so the connection at the local level with the BJP workers and the Sangh workers, and how it influenced in a good way. I'm saying in a good way, not in a bad way. How it influenced their victory, their mobilization in that process, and in that process, Sangh also influenced the politics of the party like BJP in its own way, and how. Like this entire notion of social politics. Oh, you must have seen that when Modi talks about social politics. Now this is time to do social politics, and work mixing politics and with the social issues is the tradition of Indian politics. From Mahatma Gandhi, many people did like this, and they started. So because of the influence of the direct or indirect influence of the Sun, this entire the social work, linking social work with politics, are appearing as a new trend in the politics of democracy. Most of the political parties, those who are in opposition, they do the politics during the time of election, electoral politics. But Sangh, because they do the social work, Sevakar, and through that Sevakar, they create the society. They directly influence the making of Indian politics, and they are moving towards a Sevakar, Seva, linking Seva with politics. Politics can't be like Bhajan Kirtan. So politics is a politics. But politics linking with the Seva is giving a new notion of social politics, or reinventing social politics, which was already with the Gandhi's invention in Indian politics. So that's the thing. Due to this kind of hard work of the Sangh cadres at the grassroots level, this Hindutva consciousness is appearing as a social bhav in society. What we have observed in my fieldwork in the few sections, among Dalit section, that it is appearing as their social bhav. There's a general way of thinking, common sense, it's entering their common sense. And that's very important thing, which is happening. People, it's not only a political kind of work, which which appears only during election and goes by. And these kind of supports are enhancing the capacity of the community among tribals. You can see the entire notion of the working with the tribals and supporting them. You know better than me. You may have better data than me how they are doing, what they are doing. But these are enhancing the capacity of the tribals, and so in that way they are remaking the reshaping the Indian democracy, and the social politics is a new. I think that's one of the ways to come forward from to come out from the crisis which democracy is creating. Democracy, in one way, emancipatory, but it also created crisis. And to come out from that crisis, you need a new way of doing politics, and that is the social politics, and that is becoming a kind of a discourse due to the influence of the Sangh work at the grassroots as a samajik karya, shiksha, health, cleanliness, many things they are working. Lastly, it's in the end of the book I have discussed how this is the entire notion of making Hindutva public. No, it's the project of making Hindutva public, or Hindutva public sphere, and that is going on. But in between, Corona came, and the question started emerging: is Corona going to rupture this continuous and constant making of Hindutva public in society? I say in the last IPOLO, I have done a research in the first phase of the first layer of Corona came after that, when the displacement of the laborers were happening. That Sangh, even in that time, created a space for its own discourse through their Seva Karya. So Seva Karya is a constant thread, and that is the, I think, one of the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh. So this we also we are now talking about civil society, NGO organizations, but in 1925 they kept name of the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, the Swayam Sevak. This entire notions which we are using after 90 as a very emancipatory concept. That concept they started that time, at least at the level of the concept, and at the level of action. I think I have not documented before that, so I can't claim and I can't say that anything about that. But after 90, I see how they are influencing Indian society, Indian politics. So I am not able to tell many things because it's very difficult to summarize the book. But very simple submission. I have the the domain which is not under the influence of the RSS, not the insider of the RSS, the outsider of the RSS, that kindly understand these changes, kindly listen us, kindly know that what they are doing and how they are impacting in politics and society. Then you are free to create either contesting discourse or interacting discourse or negotiating discourse, whatever. It's up to you, but at least listen and read this kind of book but you know, we have produced various kinds of intolerance in society. It's not, and many people are so disturbed. Why I have said this? But they have never accepted that this can be said by the people, a scholar like me. So seeing Sangh from non-European perspective is also needed. And I say, if you don't go in the bigger world, non-European, conceptual, theoretical, whatever, just see the Sangh around you, and you can find answer of your questions. Because they are always in your life. They are influencing your life, and through that they are influencing the broader politics of Indian democracy in their own way. And they can't be like they were in 1925, as Mohan Bhagwat ji rightly said. They always change. समय आपको change करता है. And this is not being acceptable by the both section. Even the left fringe, they are not ready to accept, and even a section of the right fringe also, they are also in a trouble. No. RSS कैसे change हो जाएगा? जो थे हम वही हैं. I say fundamentals and the foundations. Foundations maybe can't change, always recur, but the form, content of doing mobilization, the entire ways of doing can change. And those change can also influence the core ideas of the organization. That's very simple submission of this. It's not, I always try to escape from saying any very theoretical jargons in the book. If you read my all the book, it's a very, I try to avoid consciously this kind of jargons in my book. So I always escape from giving any theoretical frame. It's just knowledge of experience which emerged from my work since 20. First of all, I wrote a book in 2008 that is Fascinating Hindutva, and the research started I think 2000, and I saw that how they are working among Dalit community and marginal community in 2000, and then I wrote that book. But that book was also in one way a part of surrounded by those kind of typical nuances. So in this book, I tried to come out from that, and that helped me to see the ranges of the RSS work, impact of the RSS work, more deeper than what I had observed that time. So my project started in 2000 to see the Sangh influence in Sangh work as an agency, as an organization to appropriate or link or include whatever sub-word you can give the marginals and subaltern of this community in their argument, discourse, and the mobilization. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Badrinaran. I think though it's very unfair to really pack this rich, superbly researched 218 plus pages plus book in just 10 to 12 minutes, I think you have done a brilliant job at explaining what exactly your book is. And I think the central leitmotif of your book is exactly that how this search for dignity and development, I think even after 75, and we are entering the 75th year of our independence, so that these basic issues are still, on the minds of the Dalits and marginal communities, especially in the Hindi heartland, where you have taken those field work. I think that is what is so important. But what you really, I think, flagged, which not many acknowledge, that how the RSS's, the Rashtriya Swayam Sangh's very close interactions with these communities is in fact empowering those communities. In fact, to what extent it is empowering democracy, enriching Indian democracy, and deepening Indian democracy. So I think that these are some very fundamental, basic points, big ideas, which really can be seen from the book. So I think let's formally the e-way, the virtual way, launch the book by holding the copy of the book. So Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe, Nandakumarji, and Professor Pandit, if you just hold the book, and maybe Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe can announce that we are this is the launch, and over to you, sir.
I'm really happy and delighted to announce that the Republic of Hindutva, a book by Badri Narayan ji, is now formally launched. And I congratulate the writer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Over to you, sir.
Sorry, Manish ji, I haven't got the hard copy with me, so I would formally announce that I am also part of this releasing. I haven't got the copy with me, not yet reached. Sorry.
Notionally, it has been launched.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Manish Dabhade ji and Bhavana ji, and of course the person of the evening, Badri Narayan ji, our most respected Pracharak Nandakumar ji, Professor Dr. Shanti Shri Pandit ji, and all others who are participating in this virtual book launch function. It's a great privilege to be here, and I have always admired Badri Narayan ji's writings for the very freshness with which he approaches several issues. I mean, he is not confined to the traditional approaches, the stereotypes in a way, and he takes a fresh look at organizations and ideologies and social movements, and that is something very remarkable. And for that, I must congratulate Badri Narayan ji. Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangha is perhaps the most open organizations of the world. Anybody can at any point of time just walk in at the RSS Shakha and then become a member of the RSS. You don't require to fill a form or make a phone call or do anything, which is a very formal and a kind of a stereotype thing. In such an open organization, you can walk in at any point of time. You don't require to pay any subscription, nothing of that kind. And even with this very open and democratic character of the RSS, unfortunately, and there are political reasons everybody can appreciate, RSS is perhaps the much misunderstood organization, and there is more misunderstanding about RSS than a proper understanding. One of my friends, who is also a well-wisher of RSS, used to tell me that you people require to demystify RSS. In fact, frankly speaking, if RSS is a very open organization, there need not be any mystic around RSS. But unfortunately, it is more of a media creation, more of a misperception, which was kind of artificially created, or a manufactured misperception, if I may say so. Whatever the case may be, but the fact remains that RSS requires more kind of analysis of the way it functions, the way it takes along all sections of the society, and the way it has moved forward during last close to 100 years. And in that direction, I believe this particular book definitely makes a mark. It's a significant book, a significant part of post Prime Minister Narendra Modi's coming to power literature about RSS. And therefore, I must once again congratulate the writer. I would say, I mean, having gone through the book and once again realizing that the title, Republic of Hindutva, is a very catchy title, I must say. And it will definitely attract the attention of the people, pro-RSS, anti-RSS, whosoever. But they will definitely be attracted towards it. But I would suggest that going by the character of the organization of RSS, I wonder whether the right description could be the democracy of RSS. I mean, literally speaking, there may not be much of a difference when you call it a republic or democracy. But when I say democracy, I mean to suggest that how individuals are given a space in RSS, how individuals are respected in RSS, how every individual is considered as an important asset in RSS, and how interpersonal relationship is built like a piece of art, and then how it gets evolved, and then how it gets kind of a, or it gets into a kind of an organization at time. I mean, initially a small organization, and eventually a kind of conglomeration of small organizations, which is what Shakha is, into a large, a mass organization, at the basis of which is the cadre, which is so very inspired. But when I say inspired, I would also bring to the notice of the audience here that the inspiration is not just ideological. Yes, of course, ideology and idealism of RSS motivates, inspires. But karyakartas of my kind, for example, get attracted to RSS, towards RSS from the day one, not simply because of inspiration. Day one, when we get attracted towards the RSS, it is because of the treatment that we get in RSS. RSS is an organization where every other person is wanted. where every other person is welcome, where there is a kind of a receptive approach, no matter from which locality you are, which language you speak, or which God you worship for that matter. Nothing comes in your way. You are an individual, you are the person staying in this locality, you are welcome. So this very democratic character of RSS, I believe that requires more attention. And therefore, in that context, because RSS has been seen more in terms of politics, which is understandable, but perhaps in the process we are doing some kind of injustice to the idea of RSS, because RSS is not just, or the political dimension of RSS, as I understand, as a Swayamsevak and as a Karyakarta, it's secondary. The primary dimension of the RSS edifice, if I may say so, is the human being. This is an organization of humans. This is an organization of individuals. And like brick by brick, we build a building. It is by involving every other individual, by welcoming every other individual, we create this organization. That is the way of working in the RSS, as what I have been able to appreciate, been able to understand. And therefore, the ingredients are love, selfless love, affection towards everybody without any expectation, inculcating a kind of commitment along with selfishness, transforming an individual. In RSS, we are told, and we believe genuinely, that accept every individual as what he or she is and transform as the way we want him or her to be. As a Karyakarta, as a Swayamsevak, I'm not bringing in the ideological aspect over here, because as I sincerely believe, they come only at a later stage. First of all, as an individual, everybody is welcome. That is such an important thing. I mean, we don't have any particular lenses through which we look at individuals. An individual as a human being deserves every respect. And that is something very fundamental. And in that sense, I believe RSS is democrat, or rather democracy is in the lifeblood of RSS. In that sense, it is a very, very democratic organization. We believe, and we have been told always, that every person is important. All are important, but nobody is indispensable. What a beautiful principle of the science of organization. All are important, but nobody is indispensable. That is how we look at the science of building an organization. We also keep on saying in the RSS, the pracharaks, which are the, in a way, mainstay of the organizational edifice that has been constructed. And pracharaks are, in a way, known for self-effacement. They don't go by their identity. I mean, somebody sometime is the pracharak of the Dakshina Kshetra, and tomorrow he is transported and asked that you have to work in maybe tribal areas, or maybe in the Northeast, and everybody accepts it without any grudges, without any complaint. We call it that every pracharak has a mindset that of a postcard. The address is written by the organization. Wherever the address is, he or she has to reach over there. So the supreme science of organization that RSS has evolved over the decades requires perhaps a deeper analysis. I am happy that Badri Narayan ji has tried to decipher RSS through first-hand experiences. He has not based all his conclusions on something written by somebody or some comments coming from somewhere. No, he decided to, first of all, take the experience firsthand. And here comes the importance of the experience of RSS. Let me tell you, like India, RSS is an experience. No matter how many books you read about, no matter how many websites you visit, you may not be able to understand India and RSS. For both, it is required that you have to experience. And that experiential learning about RSS is something which is very critical, and I'm happy that the writer has attempted towards that. Before I close, I want to make 3 points. Number one is RSS is known for winning hearts and transforming people. I come from Maharashtra, the land where there is a very powerful Dalit movement. And there used to be one Dalit Swayamsevak Sangh. And one theater person from Pune, Texas Gaikwad, used to lead that movement. I'm talking about 80s. And initially, a very strong opponent of RSS and a critic of RSS, due to the efforts of our Karyakartas, our Swayamsevaks over there, later on became a supporter of RSS. He had written a play, and the play title went like, Amhi Desha Se Mare Kari, we are the killers of this nation. That was the play which he wrote. And then he became a part of those Mare Kari. This can happen because we have the ability that our love, our affection, our selfless kind of approaches definitely will convert. One of our pracharaks used to tell us that every metal has a melting point. You have to create that heat, that warmth through relationship. And therefore, relationship dynamics in RSS, I believe it's something which requires more kind of examination, evolving more understanding around this relationship dynamics, how people relate with each other. Something very, very important. Maybe many people, RSS never comes out with any kind of brochure wherein, like a corporate organization or even a voluntary organization or an NGO, you give some kind of testimonials as how people have appreciated our work. That is not the way we work in RSS. But if I have to create something, I definitely would remember a very senior politician from Karnataka, CM Ibrahim. He was a member of the Devegowda cabinet in the 96-97. And it was that period when he was civil aviation minister, there happened a very gruesome kind of air crash. And the Saudi Arabian Airlines and Kazakhstan Airlines, 2 planes, almost came face to face, and ultimately it was a clash. Both the planes met with a very severe accident, and many lives were lost. At that point of time, it happened in Charkhi, at Charkhi, Dadri, a place in Haryana, very close to Delhi that way. At that point of time, Ibrahim later on wrote a letter in the Times of India saying that the first set of people who rushed to the rescue of those who were injured and those who were dead as well were the RSS people. No matter of what religion were the passengers, they tried to help each one and everyone. So this is the history of RSS, whether the Seva or the Sangathan, the service, and also the science of organization, which I believe requires more attention. I would only say that RSS is an idealism-driven organization. Informality is one of the fundamentals of RSS. You will never find, in a Shakha, for a particular thing, there may be some formal ways. But eventually, the kind of informal bonds that RSS is known for creating, that is the glue by way of which we have been able to build organizations. And thirdly, as I had explained earlier, the interpersonal relations. I'll give you one example and then I'll close. I know there was one Parsi municipal corporation member in Mumbai of the Jansangh, His name was Rustum Tirandaz. When he joined Jansang, he was not initially in Jansang, but he decided to join Jansang. And then some people told him, oh, you are joining Jansang, you have to understand what RSS is. And therefore, he wanted to know what is RSS. So he asked one of the Karyakartas in Jansang office, can you tell me what is RSS? Of course, the Karyakarta, with whatever his limitations, tried to explain him what is RSS, but he could not understand, really speaking. And when he asked his question twice or thrice, the Karyakarta told him, look, there is a Shakha here in a nearby Maidan. Just go there and you will get to know what is RSS. So he went there. He had all those wrong notions about RSS, so he was a bit reluctant and hesitant as well. But he saw that for 3 consecutive days on that particular Maidan, and it was a rainy season, but still, although there was some kind of a drizzle, at 6:30 in the morning, one person used to come with a bag carrying the RSS flag and the stand at which the flag is put on, and the RSS knicker and all, the entire RSS uniform as such. And he used to wait for people to come. Initially, on day 1, there were 4 people. On day 2, there were only 2 people. And on day 3, he saw nobody had turned to the Shakha. And still, at 6:30, he went there, waited for a few minutes. Then he had the flag unfurled over there. He gave all the salutations to the RSS flag in a typical way, in a typical manner. Waited for another half an hour for everybody to come. Nobody did come. He was just one person. At the end of half an hour period, he again stood up, offered his salutations once again, recited the prarthana, and then, having taken the flag and all other things, went back to home. On the 4th day, this Rustum Tirandaz came to Jansang office and told, I have now understood RSS. What is RSS? This is RSS. From singular to plural. This is the journey. And let me tell you, it's not a very easy journey. But still, RSS has been able to kind of cultivate that culture of taking up this journey very courageously. And therefore, I would suggest Badri Narayanji that in your next book, I'm sure a sequel of this, many of your admirers and people like us also would be expecting. And I would suggest that a closer look on the science of organization that RSS has cultivated all through these years, perhaps would be doing more justice to the subject matter, which I'm happy you have brought under your lenses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sahasrabudhe. I think that was a very, very insightful address. And very importantly, and many of us would agree, especially those who have read the book, that this is a very important contribution, especially after 2014 when Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji came to power. And what it essentially does, as you, in your own words, it really demystifies RSS. And I think the very important point which all of us need to really weigh carefully and obviously agree is that it is really the democratic spirit of RSS, and how, and you beautifully really said that how it is really about idealism, how it is about informality, and how it is about interpersonal relationships. I think these really explain the democratic spirit of the RSS, and how the focus is really on transforming of individual. And again, the last point, which I think was most important, which again, Professor Badri Narayan, all credit to him, that having an open mind, that ultimately that experiential learning of RSS, either through talking to people or even visiting a shakha, that itself will really bring you face to face with what exactly the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh is. I think this was really again Thanks, Dr. Vinayji, for this wonderful address. And with this, I now request Shri J. Nandakumarji over to you, sir.
Most respected Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddheji, Dr. Manish Dabhadeji, Professor Chandrashi Panditji, and of course, the star of today's meeting. And also, I was watching the discussions going on in other platforms also about this wonderful book, product of a thorough study, research. The author of the book, of such a book, Republic of Hindutva, How the Sangh is Reshaping Indian Democracy. So, Professor Badri Narayanji, and all who are hearing this discussion and participating in the launch of this book through this media. A non-social historian and cultural anthropologist, Sri Badri Narayanji, as Vinayji has correctly put it in his introduction itself, that he usually, Badri Narayanji's style of approaching topics, always a fresh approach, not echoing or aping someone else who have done some basic work, but Badri Narayanji approach every topic afresh. A pleasant style of presenting and the articulation, everything. I was also watching him, reading him through so many of his articles and everything. Now, this book, of course, I have already said that because I am not in Delhi for the last some days or weeks, I am way south in South Kerala, and I was not able to collect the book, hard book, sorry, but still I have got the copy, soft copy with me, and I have gone through it, and I was very much attracted towards the style in which Badri Narayanji approached the topic. One thing is for sure, there has been no dearth of books on Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, at least since BJP government came to power in 2014. But there is a paucity of research and original academic content on RSS and its activities, as most of the published works are either biased or superficial, I would like to say. But as far as Badri Narayanji's approach and his book is concerned, it is neither biased nor superficial. He has gone very deep into the subject through his personal experience by his intensive journey, especially in the Hindi heartland and into the village areas, tribal areas, and experienced what RSS is doing in that area. So it was not at all biased. It was an original work and, of course, an in-depth study. There are so many books already written by, already it has been mentioned, and also Badri Narayanji has also quoted extensively from Walter K. Anderson and Sridhar Damle, who wrote the book, wonderful book. Regarding the title, I would like to say that the most apt title given for an RSS research book, Brotherhood in Saffron. Vinayji has suggested a topic, a heading for this, title for this book as Democracy in Hindutva. Rather better, I would like to say. But Walter K. Anderson, though he's an American, he got the crux of RSS work, and so he gave the title Brotherhood in Saffron. And Professor Rakesh Sinha, of course, he's an insider, a Swayamsevak and an academician. His life history, he wrote about Dr. Saab, the Sansthapak, founder of RSS. It is actually a thorough academic study. and a recent book by Dr. Ratan Saradaji about RSS, and the latest book by RSS Prachar Pramukh Sunil Ambedkar ji. All these books you can see, it is a thorough academic studies, but in this, Badri Narayan ji's approach and his intense feeling to find out the real darshan and the real history, and also how it is impacting, how it is influencing the modern day Bharat socio-political history is a very much refreshing experience for me, and also, of course, an enriching experience for me while I am going through that book. Even though already Vinayji has elaborated very much about the Sangha style, Sangha approach, Sangha love, affection, interpersonal relationship, and the very aspects and the basic tenets of Sangha has been very well explained by Vinayji. So it is not necessary for me to go deep into Sangha style, and I am confining myself towards the book only. The book, very book which has been written by Badri Narayan. Even though Republic of Hindutva talks more about, sorry to say, more about the BJP and the politics of nationalism, I see the book also as an attempt to approach the Sangh and its activities from an academic point of view that I have already mentioned. Therefore, I feel we must welcome and appreciate such genuine attempts to understand the Sangha, even though the research outputs is not in consonance with the organizational point of view. Sorry to say, the organizational concept which Vinayji, in his typical style, he has mentioned some suggestion given as a second part, as a sequence of this research, what all points are to be given into taken into consideration. Professor Badri Narayan has rightly pointed out the problem of Indian left and opposition as their inability to understand the real Sangh. It has been clearly mentioned. I would like to quote Odar. He writes in page 7, I quote, "The problem of the opposition is that they are fighting with an image of the RSS, which is not its reality. The RSS is changing day by day, but the politicians of the opposition parties are attacking the image of the RSS, which is much older and has become obsolete. The political forces attacking the RSS are in fact attacking its shadow, but are unable to understand the real RSS." Unquote. Again, as the author says, it is true that the RSS has always been an object of scrutiny in Indian political discourse, but not enough effort has been made to understand it intellectually. So that is the main factor and the relevance of this great book. It is an approach, an academic approach, an intellectual approach, which has not been made by the so-called adversaries or the other writers as such. By and large, the book talks about the BJP, its electioneering and politics. In the portions where RSS was discussed, it primarily centers on a notion that there was an old RSS which was altogether different from the present form of the organization, which is called new RSS or emerging RSS. That is what which I have already mentioned, that which is some of the outputs, some of the writings are not clearly in consonance with the organizational view. The author rightly argues that the critics of the Sangh are using old tools to understand new scenario. As he observes, the critics of the RSS see it as a continuum, not as a new organization. But what I feel, I would like to say, what I feel is contrary to this observation. The critics rather consider the RSS as a stagnant or static organization. They can never even admit that there is a continuity. They are not accepting that fact. It is not a continuity. It is a stagnant organization. That is what which they are saying. In reality, the Sangha is an young, dynamic organization. see, in Sangha Adhikaris usually say a particular Hindi quotation, it is Chira Puratan and Nitya Nutan. It is ancient as well as it is, of course, 98 years old. Of course, it is an young dynamic organization also. However, its fundamental character of organic evolution still remains unidentified. It is an evolution. Sangha is evolving. It is an organic growth. It is not like, see, an old RSS was there and RSS leaders sat and think about the factors of the old RSS and they thought about a change, and all of a sudden on a fine morning, a new RSS has emerged. That's not the fact. It is evolving. It is an organic evolution. Understanding this very fundamental character is the only way to offer comprehensive and precise answers to such questions. First of all, this is an absolutely flawed premise that the present Sangha is something new, as the Sangha is an evolving organization. I have already said the continuum of what Dr. G had envisaged. Continuum of what Dr. G had envisaged. As Dattappan Jhengadiji is considered to be the topmost, say that type of positions are not in Sangha, but still for the public consumption, I am using the very same word, the topmost ideologue of Dattappan Jhengadiji after Guruji, Golwalkar, Dinadayal Upadhyaya, Dattappan Jhengadiji of that stature. He was the person who wrote the Sangha Gita and all those, so many books he wrote. Jhengadiji defined RSS. It is a progressive unfoldment of the vision of Sangha work. The progressive unfoldment of the vision of Sangha work. What it has been envisaged on the very day of the inception in 1925 Vijayadashami, it is gradually evolving. That seed has got that immense power to produce, to evolve, and make these changes. That is the immense power of that vision, and Jhengadiji is saying it is a progressive unfoldment of the vision. Another senior pracharak of RSS, he can be considered as the first member of the first group of pracharaks, Dadarao Paramarth. Dadarao Paramarth is a wonderful personality. He is being explained as a walking volcano of RSS ideology and idealism. He was not a very great, what you say, higher educated personality. He has completed only up to 6th standard, but still he was an expert in all sorts of poetry, everything. He evolved himself also in that way. Once he was asked, can you give as an explanation or definition for RSS in a sentence? Dadarao Paramarth was asked when he was working in the South, in Madras, one of the intellectual Shastris. He was such a personality, he was a very good poet also. He stood up and said, RSS is an evolution of the life mission of the Hindu nation. See the rhythm of the words. Evolution, RSS is an evolution of the life mission of the Hindu nation. Hindu Rashtra ka ek prakar ka organic evolution hai Sangha. So in that way also it is to be approached. The Sangha is reshaping or evolving itself according to the changing times as the Sanatana Dharma reinvents itself time to time. How Sanatana Dharma is reinventing itself according to the changing times. The very same aspect is going on. The very same thing is as Sangha is also evolving in the very same way. That's why Dadarao Paramarth was saying it's an evolution. Just like new organs are evolving from the body. New organs in the due to the evolution. I'm not following or accepting the evolution theory, but there is a theory, you know very well. According to the need and necessity of the times, the new organs will come out. RSS is an organ evolved out of this Hindu nation's body. In that way, you have to consider it. So I feel that notion of the new RSS is not in consonance with the reality. But we are not communists, sorry to say. We are not communists to insist the social scientists and scholars to peddle only our so-called official version. Sangha, what Sangha is saying, you have to peddle upon like that. RSS is not communist. So we will not insist any academicians or thinker to always write or speak according to our definitions. We only humbly presenting our definition. That's all. And also, sorry to quote one of our communist leaders, presently the Chief Minister of Kerala, my Kerala, whenever he is being confronted with the Communist Party, some ideas or anything, he used to say that you don't know anything about our party. No, you don't know anything about our party. आपको कुछ मालूम नहीं है इस पार्टी के बारे में कुछ. It's a syndrome, Martian syndrome. RSS is not affected with such a Martian syndrome, so it is very much. We are appreciating, we are congratulating the academicians, especially persons like Badri Narayanji, who is approaching RSS in his own way, and he is giving an explanation. So it is a welcome sign. And again, here I would like to quote journalist Kushwant Singh, who interviewed RSS Sarsankachalak Guruji Golwalkar way back in 1972. That means 18 years before 1990. 1990 is a very much discussed year in this book also. That's why I'm saying 18 years prior to 1990, when Kushwant Singh interviewed Guruji, he later on wrote, I quote, "There are some people against whom you build up malice without knowing them. Without knowing them." I'm quoting. Guru Golwalkar had long been at the top of my hate list. As a journalist, I could not resist the chance of meeting him. And again, he is writing, was I impressed? I admit I was. He was impressed by Guru Golwalkar. And the main reason he is saying, that's what I am saying. He did not try to persuade me to his point of view. He made me feel that he was open to any sort of persuasion. That's why I started liking him. In this way, if you are coming close to Sangha, you will find out what Sangha actually is. That's why Pujaniya Mohanji Bhagavat, President Sarsankachalak, often he is repeating the very same thing. Come inside us. Come here. As Vinayji has already said, doors are open. You can come. And also you can depart at any moment of time. There is no entry fees and there is no dismissal fee. You can come and you can go. That is the most important feature of Sangha. That's why Kushwant Singh, when he came near to Guru Golwalkar and RSS, then he was appreciating Sangha. Sangha is always open to such observations. It also throws up opportunity for others to come up with diverse opinions and carry forward meaningful discussions and academic debates. The chapters titled, again I am coming back to the book, the chapters titled RSS in Elections and Politics, Narratives and Elections deal with RSS, involvement in politics and election. Here what we need to understand is, we often say, Sangha often say, quote, the Sangha will not do anything. Maybe it's a somewhat, Vijitra quotation. Sangha will not do anything, but the Swayam Sevas do. That's our concept regarding all works which are going on in the name of Sangha. Only one thing which the Sangha is doing is conducting Shakha. That Vinayji already mentioned, that one person who is coming, irrespective of the factors that how many are coming with me, continuously doing that thing, that work is RSS work, and that work is alone RSS work. All other works which we are seeing is whatever it may. It may be labor front, it may be political front, it may be service field, it may be children culture center, education field. These are all run by Swayam Sevak, inspired by RSS. That can be. The Sangha has always been apolitical and shall remain the same as the vision of organization is organizing the Hindu society, not on the basis of political lines, but on the cultural or civilizational lines, that is Hindutva. As quoted in the book itself, Pujaniya Sarsankachalak, Dr. Mohan Bhagavat had clearly stated that projecting some personality was not our agenda, and our agenda was to bring issues in front of the people. let me the personality, maybe Narendra Modi or someone else, but it is not our work projecting the personality. Okay. Obviously, the Swayamsevak, like other fellow citizens, are political beings too. They are political beings. We are living in a democratic system. They support and work for a nationalist party in the interest of the nation and work on the ground to bring social and political issues in front of the people. And the Sangha has always maintained its political nature, even in more critical junctures than this, like the independence, partition, and emergency. We have participated in, our Swayamsevaks have participated in all these movements. So I got the old Sangha, which fought the emergency, was the only remarkable organization that fought for reinstating the constitution and re-establishing democracy. RSS was the only organization all through Bharat worked for re-established democracy. Again, I am quoting the Topan Jhingdiji. He had summarized it in a line. I quote, Sangha will not do anything, but whatever is essential will eventually happen. Unquote. At the same time, when the author says, much of the BJP's popularity today has to do with the socio-cultural mindset that the Sangha has formed in the last 50 to 60 years through its groundwork. Of course, it is true that being the only nationalist party, the BJP has got the benefit as a population, has united on the basis of its social and cultural identity. See, here I would quote an incident in which why RSS is not supporting other political parties. Naturally, there will be a question. Once Sri Manmohan Singh, then Prime Minister, asked our Mago Vaidyaji about this question. Mago Vaidyaji. And Mago Vaidyaji, we are open, we are ready to support anyone. Then why don't you support Congress? Then Mago Vaidyaji replied it in this way that, did you accept it? Whether your doors are open for us? If you are opening the doors and your ideology and your way of approaching regarding this nation is very much in consonance with our view, we are ready to support any political party. There is no problem about that. But whether the question is that it is not a one-way traffic, it should be a two-way traffic in this way. The book is not a history of RSS or Hindutva movement, unlike its precedents, but an analysis of the present-day Indian politics. As author observes, the RSS is now no longer an organization where the volunteers wield spears or sticks. I would like to say in Shakhas, still the exercises are going on with the sticks also. Okay. Anyway, the volunteers today wield a far more powerful weapon, which is the mission of creating a socio-cultural hegemony that would include the entire Hindu community and even many traditionally non-Hindu tribals and other minority groups. Page 50 to 53 mein quote here. Here I would like to quote RSS founder Dr. Hedgewar, who had given a specific definition to RSS. He said, RSS is not an organization in the society, but an organization of the society. We want to organize the whole society in which all groups are there. It is being said by the founder himself in 1920s. He said that RSS is an organization of the society, not an organization in the society. Right from the beginning, Sangha was working for an organized Hindu society. Sangha is for all Hindus. Hindus means it's not a religious concept that I have already said, irrespective of caste, creed, method of worship, and language. Those who are believing that this great nation is my mother, its culture and tradition are mine. As far as Sangha is concerned, they are Hindus. So I would like to conclude. I don't want to take much time. Sangha's approach towards the so-called minorities. Conceptually, Sangha is against the very division of majority or minority. It has been very well defined right from the beginning. Again, I am going back to Guruji's one dialogue or Sakshatkar with the world-renowned Arabic scholar Dr. Saifuddin Jilani. Dr. Saifuddin Jilani asked Guruji about the concept of Indianization. At that point to that question, I don't want to quote fully. Guruji answered, Indianization does not mean converting all people to Hinduism. Hinduism, take it from Hinduism. Indianization does not mean that one should be asked to quit his religious system. We neither said this, understand this, this interview was in the beginning of the 70s. He said, we neither said this, nor we are going to say so. Again, Jilani asked this, Saifuddin Jilani is asking, I am thankful to you for this clarification. Don't you think it is high time that a meeting took place between you and such Muslim Indian leaders who would cooperate with you in finding ways to remove this communal discord once for all? Would you like to meet such leaders? Guruji answered, this sentence is very much it is to be taken into consideration. I would not only like it, I would welcome it. I would welcome it. That has happened at that point of time itself. So I'm coming to my final point and I'm concluding. Despite being put in a Gramscian parlance, it rightly reflects the all-inclusiveness of the Sangha. The author shows a rare intellectual honesty to write about the virtue of the Sangha that is being neglected by the intolerant leftist commentators. I would rather understand this book as a result of a perception war in the mind of the author who sees the old Sangha as a radical outfit and the new Sangha as an organization which does not want to create communal tensions in the society. It is a change in perception of the author who admits that the leftist ideological baggage once he carried and about the leftist prism through which he viewed the organizational activities of the Sangha. He himself is admitting in this book. Sangha was viewed as an inclusive organization and even Congress leaders had no untouchability towards it on those periods. All the vilifications started from emergency. All the vilifications. Thanks to Srimati Indira Gandhi and her leftist court historians. The authors touched upon the least discussed aspects of the social work of the Swayamsevak, such as gender issues, ecology, development, and now the COVID-19 pandemic. The Sangha's activities towards Samajik Samarasata, social harmony, and realization of the dreams of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar also found special mention in the book. It is a commendable job to bring such rarely discussed facets of the Sangha. In that respect, the book is not just a story of democracy and elections that unfolded in India in 2014 and 2019 from the perspective of Hindu politics, but an attempt to bring forth some hitherto neglected or sidelined aspects of Sangha work. I would recommend this book for those who are brainwashed by leftist propaganda and made into believe their malicious narratives against Hindutva, as it offers new insight to them to detoxify their mind. I am concluding. Once the Supreme Court Justice, ex-retired Justice K.T. Thomas was asked about the unity of Bharat. In an interview, he was asked, what do you think about the present day unity? What are the factors, main salient features of the unity and strength of present day Bharat? Justice K.T. Thomas answered it in this way. There are four major factors for the unity and strength of present day Bharat. First and foremost is our sacred constitution. First and foremost, our constitution. And second is our time-tested democracy through which we are ruling, we are continuing to. And the third aspect is our powerful army. And then he comes to the conclusion, the fourth, the last but not the least, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangha, RSS. It has been said by none other than Justice K.T. Thomas that he has put RSS in the same pedestal where our democracy, our constitution, and the army are standing, and he is saying RSS is also responsible for the present day unity and strength of the modern Bharat. So these are my words, and also I would like to request again, I'm just repeating Vinayji's suggestion that Professor Badri Narayanji, being a genius, being a real historian and anthropologist, he would go again deep into the subject, and we are all expecting, as readers and followers of yourself, are expecting such a second part or a sequential book from you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for all. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Nandakumarji, for that very brilliant, I think, We all are spellbound, and really that very original observations, very candid observations, where you agree, where you disagree. I think that honesty is really what many admire in you. So thank you so much. And I mean, since we're already I would now immediately request Professor Shantishri Pandit to make her comments on the book. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Manish. Respected Vinay Sahasrabuddhe respected Nandakumar ji, and Professor Badri Narayan ji. I'm so happy as an academic. I'm also a product of Jawaharlal Nehru University. I come from the south of India. The minute I saw the title, I was a little doubtful because I thought it would be the same, a very biased interpretation or a very pro interpretation. But let me say that the entire book is indeed made a paradigm shift in Indian social science. One is, for one, Professor Badri Narayan was extremely honest, being an outsider, extremely objective. This is something that I thought that broke the prison walls of the 75 years of social science research in India, especially dominated by my alma mater, the Jawaharlal Nehru University, where we just dismissed, or there was a type of venom spreading on the RSS. One thing I would rather say, coming from the south of India, especially from a state, Tamil Nadu. I come from Tamil Nadu, where if you see, initially the Dravidian movement was very much against the RSS. But today, I have a very good friend of mine who's a Congress leader, who told me the other day when I was talking about your book to him, he told me, see, we welcome both the RSS and the BJP because it has increased our nationalism, but maybe we may have differences with particular leaders. Another, I will tell you, take the present chief minister. His wife publicly displays that she is a Hindu and that she goes to every temple, and it is because of the priests her husband got the chief ministership, because somebody had. So you have a Dravidian movement also that great. So this is the work that the RSS has been doing. Number two, I will tell you, this whole idea that you bring out in your book, which I greatly appreciated, is the issue that RSS is Brahminical. I'm a product of social engineering. I don't belong to the uppermost caste, because I would not like to say what I am, but I'm a product of social engineering. Linguistically, caste-wise, and if you see clearly, the RSS has been extremely welcoming. My first introduction to the RSS was through Eknath Ranade, who led the Vivekananda Memorial Movement in the South. And to a large extent, this was one of the movements that greatly introduced the South to the work of the RSS. And you are talking about Seva, which, let me tell you, is a very old thing. I don't know whether you remember the cyclone in the Divi Taluk in Andhra Pradesh. The first people to land up there were the RSS. So I'm very happy that the coming of Narendra Modi has made the work of the RSS more visible. But I think they have been working there for very long. The second issue is the use of the word Hindutva has several connotations. I just wanted to know which connotation you would like us to understand when you're talking about your research. One concept is the Savarkar concept, which is exclusive because it is Pitru Bhumi and Punya Bhumi. And you rightly say the Sangha Parivar is inclusive because they take the view of cultural and civilization. But there is one more, now that I'm in Maharashtra and Pune, is this Hindutva of Bala Saheb Thackeray, which I would say is the Shudrization of Hindutva. Because if you see, it is basically the OBCs and the others, SCs and STs in Maharashtra also, who are the backbone of the type of Hindutva that Bala Saheb Thackeray brought out. So the whole, so I would rather say that I'm very happy that you are not in the binary construct of the West, meaning if you are either left or you're right, but rather you have brought in the overlapping layers of identity that exists in a country like India. It's not either or. So that way the book is indeed a very fresh, addition. I would rather say a welcome addition and a paradigm shift while congregate. And finally, I would like to say, because I don't want to take too much of time, even to women, I initially used to think the RSS was the last bastion of male chauvinism, but it was not. I'll tell you, I knew Professor Sheshadri very well of the RSS, and in the Pune University, I had two very strong senior professors who belonged to the RSS. One is Dr. Shripati Shastri, a liberal. He was better than the leftists. I used to criticize the RSS so much to him, he would just smile and explain what it is. And the other is Professor Dattatreya Dhanagare. If most of you may think that he's a Marxist sociologist, but please remember he comes from one of the strongest RSS families in Maharashtra. His father, Anna Sahib Dhanagare, was the right-hand man of Dr. Hegdewar. And he was always proud of his Hindu identity. We called him for our social science forum, which was part of the Prajna Pravaha, to inaugurate. He came. A man with extreme open mind. And I think there I will agree with Vinayji when he says in the RSS, I have found as a woman, being a part of the leftist movement, seeing in JNU, the Naxal movement, everything I've seen, including the Congress, I think the RSS is much more liberal. I'm a woman. I am also not from the top caste. So I am doubly marginalized. But I think it is the RSS that has been more inclusive in accepting a person like me. So I would tell you that it is not only tribal, Dalit. And finally, when you were talking about the temple and space, I like that. I think another thing, as a social historian, I just want to finish up saying that none of our gods is the Brahmin. If you take the caste of the Hindu gods, the highest is Ram, who's a Kshatriya, but everybody is an OBC, SC or ST. Lord Shiva is 100% an SC. Because who will live in a burial yard? I don't think any Brahmin can do that. So let's see that anthropologically and other things, we would have to bring out this, and I'm very happy. Let me congratulate you for this paradigm shift you have done in academic work and with brilliant field work, which is something that I greatly appreciate, and I hope we do it in other states of India as well. Thank you so much, Manish, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Pandit. I think your very brief remarks highlighted the very original contributions of Professor Badri Narayan, but also your own experiences. And exactly that in JNU, we all witnessed the so-called left liberal hegemony. And in that, to that extent, they're completely anti-democratic. I mean, that is, and they are the ones who are really talking about justice, about democracy in danger. And where works like these, which really talk about the true nature of the RSS, based on again interactions at the local level with the marginalized communities, they really give you a completely different reality. And I think Professor Badri Narayan carries that credibility, carries that scholarly credentials, which make his book a much more serious work to be engaged with. Before I formally go in for a vote of thanks, can we have, would Professor Badri Narayan like to respond to some of the observations made by different panelists? So please unmute yourself. So,
yeah, Manishi, I don't want to take much time because already we have discussed a lot. I can say that I'm very thankful for all these suggestions, remarks, and comments on this work. And it's also my beginning, because beginning in understanding RSS, because RSS, I used to say RSS is less researched organization, under researched organizations. There are very less research on the RSS. So I have done kind of very small work, and maybe I'll extend in future based on and your insights and comments, Vinayji, Jinan Kumarji, and Shanti Sriji gave, as remarkably will help me and increase help me to take this study further with much insight and much rigor. And Nand Kumar, Vinayji, again I am thankful to Vinayji and Nand Kumarji and Shantashriji. All three spoke very well, and I learned a lot from your comments, and I will certainly take benefit of insights. Manish, I think I don't want to say much about it. It's a good moment for me, and even the disagreements which we have, these disagreements should also in one way discussed in future. So agreement and disagreement, both, like this new RSS notion. Yeah, indeed, I think I tried to say new RSS, but I'm not going to defend much about it. It's a kind of configuration, it's a kind of nuance in one way. I'm not going to stick much on that. Like it's a way to make myself rejuvenate in this study. Because when you do a conceptual study, you also want your own something which can inspire you. So this word new RSS helped me, inspired me also to take this study further. So it's a process of Rachna Prakriya. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Professor Badri Narayan, for this really a treasure, and I think all of us should read it, reread it, and try to understand. And I think all the speakers, including our respected Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe, Sri Nandakumarji, Professor Shantishi Pandit, all of them have said, and in fact, there's a consensus that this book really adds, incredibly adds to a better understanding of the RSS, especially its very democratic engagement at the ground level, Dalit communities, marginal communities. So congratulations, Professor Narayan, for this wonderful work. More power to you, and I hope, as everyone is hoping here, to read more of your work in the coming weeks and months and years. Thank you so much. I really want to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Vinay Sahasrabudhe. In fact, I've known him for now so many years now, and he has been extremely encouraging, extremely supportive, and I'm extremely fortunate that we have been. It has been. I mean, he has been very kind, very generous to really address us many times. At times I also feel guilty, अरे क्या है फिर पहुंच गए तुम वहां पर सर से बोलने के लिए, but I just can't resist the way in which he so beautifully puts across ideas on multiple issues, on multiple topics. So I think that brilliance he really brings to the table every time he speaks. Nand Kumar ji, everyone would agree, really is a top class academic, and really brings that. One can immediately see from his interventions that he really read Professor Badri Narayan's book word by word, and really is solidly engaging with the very central thesis, ideas, agreeing with them, disagreeing with some of them. I think that's really, you need really that academic honesty to really think originally, and I think that's a wonderful thing. So thank you, sir, and obviously Professor Shantishri Pandit, who really also shared her own experiences, her own personal experiences, and how this whole RSS is really about seva, is really about being very inclusive and democratic, as was talked about by even other speakers. So thank you all again. It is really a well spent evening for all of us. I personally learned from each of the participants, and I'm sure the other participants who were with us here in Zoom, and also who have joined us on YouTube, would have benefited from this academic engagement. So thank you so much, and please follow us on our different social media platforms. It is our endeavor, our dedication our mission to really bring the best ideas, which, and again, with a very open mind. I mean, you can have, I mean, it is really a battle of ideas, and we are all for it, as long as they are very candid, they are very honest, without any prejudice, and with an open mind. So thank you all again. Stay safe. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Namaskar. Badri Narayan ji, namaskar.
Thank you, Ji.
Vinay ji, namaskar, namaskar.
नमस्ते नमस्ते नंद कुमार जी, बद्री नारायण जी और सभी लोग. थैंक यू मुनव्वर जी.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Thank you. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you, Shanti Shri. Good to see you.